Buried Data and Health Freedom, what Del Bigtree reveals about vaccine safety. This is Real Money Talks, my podcast that's coming out every Friday. So make sure that when you listen, if you want to listen to the podcast, you subscribe and click the notification button over there on my podcast. But we cut it into two parts. So you're going to be listening to an interview that Del has done amazing years of research and has coming out with a documentary on October 12th. It's called The Inconvenient Study. In fact, you can go to theinconvenientstudy.com and register to get the movie for free. The documentary is going to be coming out free to everyone, again, October 12th. I want you to listen in to a two-part interview that I did with Del. 3 different things that Del and I are going to talk about. How most vaccines are never tested and never really had like the studies that were necessary to long-term studies for efficacy. Number 2, we're going to talk about the buried study that happened and what hospital that was at, what research center that was at, and the shocking differences between vaccinated and unvaxxed kids. The statistics are going to be breathtaking to you. And the 3rd thing we're going to talk about is just you deserve to see the data. You deserve the transparency. We all deserve our own health privacy and transparency. So let's listen into the Real Money Talks podcast broken into 2 interviews for the purposes of YouTube. So let's listen in. Hey, this is Loral. Welcome back to Loral's Real Money Talks, a podcast about how to make money, how to keep it, how to invest it, how to use a team. And I just interview amazing business owners. You have heard from Del Bigtree before. Big part of the MAHA movement, led the Kennedy's campaign. I'm bringing him back because he got a documentary coming out, and how you do business, Del, has got to be dissected on a whole nother podcast. But I want to hear about the documentary and catch us up on the MAHA conversation.
Well, I'll tell you, Loral, I'm still just a wee little student in your space trying to understand how to do business. I get all the attention. I'm not sure I'm handling it the right way, but mostly what I'm doing is as a nonprofit with my nonprofit, the Informed Consent Action Network. And we have a brand new movie that is going to start streaming live for everyone for free this Sunday, October 12th in the evening. The film is called An Inconvenient Study. As you know, I've been deep into this investigation of the safety of vaccines all the way since 2016, when the last film I put out, Vaxxed, essentially swept the world and changed this conversation. A lot of people say that Vaxxed was sort of the catalyst that ignited the medical freedom movement, that sort of the latest, development from that was getting Robert Kennedy Jr. in as HHS secretary. As you pointed out, I was his director of communications while he ran for president. But this is all because there is serious fraud that has been taking place in our regulatory agencies and really around the science of vaccines and the safety. So this is a very interesting film because all the way back in 2016, when I was traveling the country with Vaxxed, which was a film that was only about the MMR vaccine and a study looking at did the MMR vaccine cause autism, a study that was done in 2000. We had a whistleblower at the center of that film, Vaxxed, named Dr. William Thompson from the CDC that said they were committing scientific fraud in the vaccine safety studies. So that catapulted me into this very controversial space. We were attacked by every major news agency saying that we were baby killers. We're putting children in harm's way. Well, I'll tell you, this next film is even bigger than that. And what it's about is while I was touring with Vaxxed back in 2016, someone introduced me to the head of infectious disease at Henry Ford Health Systems in Detroit. Henry Ford is one of our biggest research hospitals in the world. They did a substantial amount of the tests on the Moderna vaccine. So they do like these large trials, and they're usually headed by this guy I was introduced to, Dr. Marcus Zervos. So when I sat down to dinner with him back in 2016, it was interesting. He said to me, Del, I've seen your film Vaxxed. It's very compelling, but there's something you keep saying that I'm seeing online and on YouTube that I take issue with. You've been saying that they've never done the proper safety science to prove safety of the vaccines. You've never done the science. And he said, so I sit on the biggest databases in the world. I went and did an investigation so that I could sit and tell you you're wrong. He said, unfortunately, and I'm shocked that I have to sit across from you and tell you you're right. I couldn't believe that we've never done any safety studies on any of the childhood vaccines. His own words. That's what he said to me. But he said, but look, that doesn't mean that vaccines aren't safe. It just means we can't scientifically say they're safe. And I said, that's all that I've said. I'm a journalist. That's all I'm stating. And he said, so what do you, I don't know what I can do about it. I still believe in vaccines. I'm pro-vaccine. I said, would you ever do a comparative study using, your talent and your abilities to compare vaccinated children to completely unvaccinated children and just study the health outcomes, compare them to each other? This is a study that's been really requested for decades from parents of vaccine-injured children. Why can't we see a study that shows that the vaccinated are actually healthier, if it's making us healthier? So he actually took me up on that challenge back in 2016. He finally did the study around 2020. And this documentary is about the fact that they then and I said to him, look, when you do this study, here's the deal. I know you're going to do it to prove me wrong, which is great, but whatever the results are, you publish it. He said, I agree. Well, of course, he never did publish it. And this documentary is about, exploring why he didn't publish it. And now, of course, I have a cease and desist letter that's been sent to me by Henry Ford claiming that there's defamation. But what they didn't know, even when they sent that letter, is I had hidden cameras when I sat with Dr. Zervos at the last meeting we had, and I asked him to explain why he wasn't putting out the study. And in his own words, he said, it's a good study. I would put it out just as it is, except if I do, I will lose my job. And that really is the issue that we now sit in the world, that real science needs to be done, and it is being quashed by the pharmaceutical industry that has so much power over our regulatory agencies, over our mainstream medical institutions, that anyone that goes near, questioning the safety of vaccines or looking, is it okay to give 72 vaccines, which is the size of this program now? Or is it okay to give 13 vaccines to a brand new baby all on the same day? We never catch that many diseases at one time. What's it doing to the children? And when you see the stats that come out of this study, which is the study that he did, it's the center of the film. Ultimately, the conclusion. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So go back. So talk a little bit about the study. So he did it in 2020. We're in 2020.
Correct.
So it's a 5-year study. So we're going to be looking.
No. Essentially, the study was just done in 2020, looking at children that were between, I think it was 2013 and 2020, like that group of children already in their database. Really 5 years of tracking. What they did is they looked at only the children that were in their own database from birth. And so it has about overall nearly 19,000 total children, almost 2,000 unvaccinated children. And so it compares the ratios. And what you see, their conclusion at the end of this study is that those who are vaccinated are 2.5 times more likely to have a chronic disease their whole life, which is a horrific result. And when you look at neurodevelopmental disorders, 6 times the rate of neurodevelopmental disorders amongst the vaccinated compared to the unvaccinated. And there was amazing things. There were categories where they couldn't even come up with the ratios or do the statistics because there were 0 children suffering from those ailments in the unvaccinated group, like there were none of the 2,000 with ADHD, which is something that we see is so prevalent, yet none of the unvaccinated children were suffering with this issue. So it's just many things like that. Asthma off the charts, over 4 times the rate of asthma amongst the vaccinated compared to the unvaccinated. And that's just the beginning. And I'll say this, Henry Ford is saying that the reason the study did not get published was because they didn't think the science was any good. To that, I will say in the film, you will see me interview the head of that study and the world-renowned expert on immunology and viruses that works at Henry Ford. And he says to me, it's a good study. I would publish it just as it is. It cannot be done better. So, we leave the audience. You're going to have to decide what you believe there. But it doesn't stand alone. What's amazing about this, Loral, is there's been other studies now, nearly a handful, that are either of homeschooled children, or there was one pediatrician that had over 15,000 children in his own practice. Some of them were vaccinated, some weren't, and he did a comparative study. Here's what we now know. This is now turning into reproducible science. Every time this study is done now, we're seeing the same signal, which is that the vaccinated are far sicker. They have much higher rates of chronic disease, much higher rates of neurodevelopmental disorders. And what we do not see is any study making this comparison anywhere in the world that shows that the vaccinated are healthier. I think that's a serious problem, since that was the entire purpose of this program, was to make our children healthier. I think this is a bombshell film. It's going to blow people's minds, which is why we're giving it away for free. We've been invited to the Malibu Film Festival, so we're going to premiere there in the morning on Sunday, October 12th. But that evening, if you go to an inconvenientstudy.com, just sign up and it's free. You'll be able to watch it with your family, send it to anyone you know. I think this is really, really important for people to understand.
It's critical, because what it also tells you, let's go to the side of business, is that 2.5% that are going to have a chronic disease gets to continue to fund the pharmas and all their lobbying and all the things that they're doing. So talk more about how that, I mean, for those that haven't been studying this, haven't been seeing this, it's just full circle of the pharmas getting what they want again.
You know what's really interesting? When I made Vaxxed, autism was rare. There's a lot of people that hadn't seen it. What makes this film so compelling is now over 54% of America's children have at least one chronic disease. So it's not like we don't know about it. It's inside of our houses. It's inside of our schools. Our children are now, it's the sickest generation of children we've ever had in the United States of America. And we are now the sickest industrialized nation in the world. You might even argue the sickest nation in the world. Robert Kennedy Jr. just announced at HHS that the CDC number this year is over 76% of Americans have a chronic disease. So it's not stopping with the children, it's continue on to adulthood. But to your point, when you watch that television, it doesn't matter what network you're watching, just watch those commercials. Pharma owns the television, and what ads are they running? Autoimmune disease, autoimmune disease, autoimmune disease, eczema, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Crohn's disease. All of these things that are skyrocketing are making fortunes for the pharmaceutical industry. And what we see in studies like this one from Henry Ford is the same thing. All of those rates are jacked up amongst the children that are being vaccinated. We are messing with the immune systems of our children. We are clearly throwing those immune systems out of whack. And now we are suffering as a nation. Here's a horrifying statistic. You want to talk about funding or talk about America's strength? Over 75% of America's children right now cannot join the armed forces because of their physical condition. They're too sick. They have too many chronic diseases.
So stay tuned for tomorrow, the second part of the documentary with Del Bigtree. While you're here, I want you to subscribe to the channel, click the notification button, and share this with as many friends as possible. If you have any questions or want to make a request, go to askloral.com, ASKLORAL. Ask a question, make a request.